Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will basically look at the growth policies, the nutritional impact of growth policies, economy-wide growth policies, but also especially in the agriculture sector. Nutrition is increasingly recognized as an important dimension of economic development. Yet, relatively little is known about the nutritional impacts of economic growth and specific economic policies. While I think advancing this knowledge can help policymakers to develop strategies and prioritize their actions which are at the same time more pro-nutrition and accelerate economic growth. My and my colleague research shows that growth is good, but it's not enough to improve nutrition. I will first present a brief overview of our study and the main results, and I will discuss in particular which growth policies, but also investments and programs are needed to improve nutrition in its various dimensions effectively. So we started first with a cross-country analysis where we basically looked at the general relationship between economic growth, agriculture growth, and nutrition outcomes. As nutrition outcomes, we use basically the prevalence of undernourishment and the prevalence of child stunting. So prevalence of undernourishment are the simple FAO measures, and the prevalence of stunting is a long-term indicator of child malnutrition. We found that in general, as we would expect, growth is good for nutrition. But we also see that some countries significantly deviate from the long-term growth nutrition trend, and some countries even have seen nutrition deteriorate despite growth. So, from this, two key research questions emerge. First, in what way and to what extent does growth actually contribute to nutrition outcomes? And second, and more important, how can policies, economic policies, be designed to better leverage growth for nutrition improvements? To explore these two research questions in more detail, we did two country case studies. The two countries we chose are Yemen and Malawi. These two countries differ significantly in their economic structure. Yemen is an oil-based economy with a relatively small agricultural sector, while Malawi has a wide agriculture-based economy with limited diversity within the agriculture sector, but also economy-wide. And in addition, the nutrition challenges of these countries differ inherently. In Yemen, we see that child malnutrition, and particularly the severe forms of child malnutrition, are extremely widespread. While in Malawi, especially micronutrient deficiencies in iron, vitamin A, folate, and zinc are of particular concern. We developed an innovative analytical framework where we combine economy-wide models, especially dynamic computable general equilibrium models, with nutrition models at the household and at the individual levels. We use these framework to run certain policy simulations. These policy simulations, or the policy scenarios, are consistent with the strategies of the particular countries. And we take a forward-looking perspective, so basically we look to the next 10 years, so from today, or the next 9 years, from today to 2020. In Yemen, we look particularly at agriculture growth policies and a policy which promotes basically growth in promising industry and service sectors, while in Malawi we take more an agriculture focus given the economic structure of this country, and here we look particularly at staple-based growth versus broad-based growth. Staple-based growth means mainly maize-driven growth. Okay, let me present some of our key findings. First, growth, and this is also consistent with our country case studies, growth leads to significantly reduced calorie deficiency as we would expect. However, depending on the economic structure of the country and the characteristics of the malnourished population, agriculture, and this is important, or non-agricultural growth can be better for improving nutrition. In agriculture-based economies like Malawi, where agriculture contributes a high share to the gross domestic product, and where most of the malnourished population draw their income from agriculture, agriculture has of course a higher potential to improve the nutrition of these people. On the other side, in countries like in Yemen, where agriculture has a relatively small share and farmers are not the most malnourished population, growth in certain industry and service sectors is better for improving nutrition. In addition, in economies like in Yemen, where most of the food and especially staple foods are imported, the price effect from agricultural productivity growth on nutrition is relatively low. In addition, what we see is that the role of growth in improving nutrition shifts during the development process. At early stages of development, agricultural growth, and particularly staple-based growth, is critical. But as development progresses, economic diversification within the agriculture sector, but also economy-wide, gains in importance. However, and this is key and I would like to emphasize, is neither agriculture growth nor non-agriculture growth is sufficient to improve child nutrition effectively and broadly and reduce micronutrient malnutrition in all its dimensions. Especially child stunting and certain micronutrient deficiencies, such as vitamin A deficiency, are less responsive to household income growth and therefore also less responsive to economic growth. Therefore, we say that any policy reform needs to be accompanied by strategic investments and targeted programs to tackle child malnutrition and micronutrient deficiencies directly and effectively. Here, investments in the health and education sector, nutrition and health and information and education campaigns, and programs that focus on child and maternal health and nutrition, particularly, as we have heard before, during pregnancy and infancy, are key. Investments, if we are talking about investments, we figured out that, for instance, investments beside health and education, which means particularly primary education, showed in our model to be highly significant, but also investments in infrastructure, particularly the drinking water system and sanitation, is important, particularly for improving child malnutrition. And this makes sense because children are maybe more exposed to certain diseases. Nutrition and health and information education campaigns are needed in, I would say, basically 3 areas, or primarily in these 3 areas. This is child feeding practices, especially breastfeeding. The second one is campaigns which leads to a more diversified diet. And the third one are campaigns which promote a better hygiene within the households. While evidence shows that these investments have high economic returns in most of all cases, we have heard that they require political will, and of course they also require financial resources, which links back to the role of economic growth in improving nutrition. Thank you.